What was your overlooked line in the player's handbook that made you go, "Ah, crap! I've been playing this wrong the whole time"? My first GM ruled that if a spell attack missed or any enemy saved from the spell, it didn't consume a slot. When we hit level 5 and got access to real spells, it became woefully apparent that wasn't the real ruling. Remove Curse has no save, and Lycanthropy is a curse. When you're fighting a werewolf enemy type, if they're turned by a bite, born werewolves can only be fixed with Wish, you can end the fight by casting Remove Curse on it, and there's literally nothing the wolf can do to stop you. When I had this realization in a campaign our DM was running, I realized I was about to brick his enemies. In a clever twist, he decided to lean into it heavily, and the werewolves escalated the matter to an all-out war with non-shifters, after I informed the clergy of how we could end the curse. The pureblood wolves began turning people indiscriminately and basically cut them loose to cause insane amounts of chaos among the cities as a nuclear response to us revealing we were going to exterminate their power. Not that big of a deal, but the moment we realized the bard's jack of all trades works on initiative rolls, we all had a bit of a, "Oh, what else are we doing wrong" moment. In my very first campaign, the DM reasoned that Moonbeam did damage per square the enemy occupied, which only came up with large or huge creatures. His reasoning was that Moonbeam can damage multiple enemies if they're stacked, so it must be able to damage the same enemy more if they occupy more of the spell. This interpretation completely broke Moonbeam, and I was too new to know any better. Our group still calls it Murder Beam, even though we've been running it correctly now for nearly a decade. Over 10 years ago, we were all new players and DMs starting in 4th edition. We and the DM thought that in order to hit an enemy, your strength dexterity score had to meet or beat the enemy's AC. No rolling. So if my strength score was 16, I just auto-hit any enemy with an AC of 16 or less. This only came into question when we fought enemies in a harbor town, and it turned out the enemy's AC was higher than anyone's scores, so they couldn't be hit. Well, surely we were playing correctly, but what to do? So we locked the enemies in a building with the people they were attacking and set the building on fire. My paladin didn't speak for weeks. We looked up the rules after that event. In my first campaign as a DM, I misunderstood HP and made my players roll for it at first level. They survived, but barely. The sorcerer had 4 HP. Don't forget to take cover into account when deciding whether or not you can target a creature with a spell. It's easy to overlook if you think, "I can't see them," but the spell doesn't say I have to be able to see them, and they are in range. But in truth, if they're hiding behind a corner or something, then they have total cover, meaning they can't be targeted directly by an attack or a spell. We almost missed this detail in the last big fight we had. The DM caught it, though. I played my first campaign, my whole group was new, thinking that racial ability scores were added to the modifier and not the score itself. Pretty overpowered at tier 1. Thunderwave, with my first 5th edition DM. We were reading it as though the spell was centered on you as the 15-foot cube, but it's obviously projected outward from you. Same bit of confusion happened with my current DM when we first started Curse of Strahd because nobody had cast it in one of his games before. Literally the items in a Dungeoneer's pack. I always just picked it because it had torches and rations, and that sounded useful since there are a lot of times in D&D where you have to make camp or explore dark areas, so I never looked past it. You know what else is in a Dungeoneer's pack? A crowbar. Well, what do crowbars do, you might be wondering? Oh, just give advantage on damn near every non-combat strength check. According to the rules, a crowbar grants advantage to strength checks where the crowbar's leverage can be applied. What are 90% of non-combat strength checks? Roll strength to try and force the door open. Roll strength to see if you can pry open the chest. Roll strength to move the lid of the sarcophagus. Do you see where I'm going with this? So I say to you all, sit down, take a couple of days, and thumb through the rule books your game is running. Read the rules available to you. It can and will make life way easier for you. The bit about being able to cast a spell and a cantrip only on the same turn as long as the spell has a casting time of 1 bonus action had previously allowed 2 spells as long as the action economy was correct. No wonder the party was able to survive such tough encounters. This is ancient history, but way back in the AD&D first edition days, I was being introduced to D&D by a friend who acted as DM. Experience points back then were awarded based on hit points of the monster, so the XP entry might read, 100 plus 2 HP. My friend, the DM, didn't notice the slash, or just didn't interpret it as per, and actually awarded us hit points for defeating monsters. So, in the above example, he would have given us 100 XP and each an additional 2 HP added to max hit points, not just healing lost hit points. We got very powerful very quickly. My friends didn't know that the withdraw action to avoid attacks of opportunity could be anything less than your full range of movement. I'd take a 5-foot step back to withdraw, and they were like, no, you've got to book it to avoid an AOO, attack of opportunity. Guys, the example in the book is a 5-foot step. See, right here, he gets out of the ogre's range. The only thing you have to do is sacrifice your action. Instead of fighting your hardest to kill him for 6 seconds, you're trying to make an opening to step away without being punished. Oh, we've been playing this whole time with full retreats. Well, good thing you saw that. Woot woot! I thought I had unlimited bonus action attacks as a monk so long as I had the key points to do them. I would sometimes spend all my key points in one single turn to go, what on the enemy. I always thought that with a wild magic sorcerer, you were supposed to up the number every time you cast a spell. 1 for the first time, 2 for the next time, etc., and on and on. I think I misremembered it from Dimension 20, but seeing that it is now a 20 instead of a 1, it just made me realize it's just 5% across the board and not compounded. Finding out that initiative is an ability check opened up all manner of possibilities, like giving the help action and flash of genius reaction to aid another player's initiative roll. Granted, it's a BS raw, technically, that my DM allows in exchange for rolling my own initiative with disadvantage. I was yesterday years old when I found out that a hover speed doesn't mean creatures can't ascend further off the ground. I've been playing for 7 years, and that's how it was run against me as a player, and I ran it that way as a DM for 5 years. Then, I found out that it just means they don't fall if knocked prone. This suddenly would have made all the Beholder and Beholderkin encounters I've experienced play out a lot differently. Crafting. I was running myself ragged, making up crafting stuff, bringing in things from 3rd edition, and then I read this section in the player's handbook and said, oh, never mind, what was I doing? I somehow got the impression that bards were short rest casters. There were 2 bards in the party. That mistake right there was the only reason the party survived 1st level in Horde of the Dragon Queen. It was recently pointed out to me that 4d6 drop the lowest is in the player's handbook. I don't know how or why, but I thought standard array and point buy were all that were in the book. My friends and I actually used the AC rule wrong for 20 years. We always thought AC was a number to be exceeded, not achieved, to hit. I had never read the rules until I played with different people, and they told me the truth. Even now, it doesn't make any sense to me. If my AC is 18, I'm protected up to 18. That's the logic. Movement. If you have more than one type of speed, like with the fly spell that grants 60 feet, that doesn't mean you can walk 30 feet and fly 60 feet. Whenever you change your type of movement, you need to subtract the movement that you've already done. That means if you walk those 30 feet and then start flying, there are only 30 feet left for that turn. Sad face. Darkvision rules are probably the most misinterpreted rule in D&D 5th edition. Now, Darkvision doesn't mean your character sees perfectly in the dark, just that they can see something in the dark. Perception checks are made at disadvantage if you have Darkvision with no light source, instead of being rolled flat. This is something players constantly think I'm making up to be harsh, but that's just how the game works. I thought the grappled condition was essentially the stunned condition, and the target couldn't do anything but try to escape. I think the Goliath Rune Knight Grappler might have known this and just didn't mention it for many sessions. Grapple went from being a really good, game-breaking move, in 2014 you could never really win the contested roll versus that build, to being nerfed into oblivion overnight. I think he even took the 2014 Grappler feat, which I now understand is one of the worst feats in the game. Glad the 2024 rules are introducing advantage from Grapple now and redesign the Grappler feat. There is a lot of variation on how side PCs, mounts, familiars, summons, pets, etc. all act. Some get their own initiative in turn, mounts can partially act on your turn, and partially act right after your turn. Some act at the end of your turn, some act only when you expend actions, and some are only side PCs in flavor but have no mechanical autonomy. One of my DMs and I swore that Find Familiar required a bonus action to utilize for months until a new player, actually'd us, and we checked the rules. I personally think I was confusing it with the Artificer's Mastiff. We had a monk in our group who didn't realize that Flurry of Blows was a bonus action. He would just make his first attack action, then spend a key point to do FOB. Then spend another key point, and do FOB again. We had a big bad evil guy that he basically one-shotted, and I finally spoke up and said, "Is that how key points are spent?" Then he began to read the ability and I pointed out, "As a bonus action," when he read it. Yeah, it was really annoying when people don't know how to play their class. I get that we all make mistakes, but this went unchecked until it seemed basically abusive. In the past, he'd spend 2 or 3 points against a regular baddie to make sure it went down, no biggie. But when he went toe-to-toe with a lich and proceeded to destroy it in the first round of combat, yeah, I had to delve deeper into this monk build that he actually had. Kobold's Pack Tactics. You have advantage on an attack roll against a creature if at least one of your allies is within 5 feet of the creature and the ally isn't incapacitated. I misunderstood it as both my ally and my kobold had to be within 5 feet of the target. My kobold draconic sorcerer made it all the way to level 20! And the last fight of the campaign before I double-checked the wording and realized I was wrong. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and if you want to join our membership program, you can. It would be a huge benefit to us. You don't have to do so, but it does keep the lights on, and you do get early access to videos and maybe some outtakes too. That said, we love you all. See you next time. Toodaloo for now.